Hello, and thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training. Please note that this is video-based training, and content is for training purposes only and intended for new and existing SAGE Alerts and Workflow customers.
Hi, my name is Jane Nichols, and today we are going to talk about Part 2 of Calculations in Query Design for the Alerts and Automation solution. We will be focusing on date-based calculations. We will be working in the CRM application, and we'll be creating a calculated field that allows us to identify sales opportunities that are open, but due to close in a certain number of days. So let's go ahead and open up this query, and we're going to jump to the Columns tab. In order to create a calculated field, we will click on the Add Calculated Column button. And this will open the Solutions Calculation Wizard. Now, although you can manually key in simple calculations such as add, subtract, multiply, and divide right from the Calculated Column workbox at the bottom of this window, for more sophisticated calculations, such as date-based calculations, the solution provides a number of pre-configured calculations that you can choose from. And if you scroll down a little ways until we see a number of calculations that start with the word date diff, we can find the one that calculates the difference in days between two dates. And that's exactly the calculation we want to perform in this query. So we'll double click on that calculation, and the solution automatically puts in the start of this command down in the workbox. Now we need to identify the two fields we wish to perform this calculation on. When you are doing a date-based calculation, it's always important that the first date you choose is always the older or earlier of the two dates that you wish to compare. In this case, we want to compare the current date to the forecast close date of the opportunities that are not yet closed. Therefore, those dates will be in the future. So the first date that we are going to choose will be the current date. So I'm going to go ahead and select that date. And it automatically puts it into the proper location within the calculation. Note that the current date value assumes that you are using a date format according to the regional settings of the server of which the solution is installed. Some applications hard code dates in different formats, so check to make sure that you are aware of the date format that the application that you're monitoring stores its dates in. Now, I'll finish by choosing the later of the two dates, and that will be the opportunities planned end date. So I will find that field under my list of database columns. So I scroll down to look for the opportunities planned end date. Once I find that field, I double click, and it puts it into the appropriate place within the calculation, and this calculation is now done. I can hit the green OK button and return to the Columns tab. If I go to the end of the list of columns, you will see that the newly created calculated column now shows up as the most recent or last column. I can go back in and modify the calculated column if I need to, but it looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. But we do need to change the customized name of this newly created calculated field. So I'm going to remove the column 14 default, and let's call it days underscore till underscore close. At this point, it's a good idea to preview the results of this query to make sure that the calculations are working correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Preview tab. and there is matching opportunities. At the end, we should see the solutions calculation for those dates. If days till close, and I look here and I see a few opportunities, and it looks like they are the appropriate calculations. However, for the purpose of this query, we only want to return those opportunities due to close in a certain number of days. That's the X days that you see in the description. What that means is that we also need to create a calculated field for filtering. So we will click on the Filters tab and add a calculated column. Just as we did in the Calculation Wizard for the Columns tab, we are going to find the appropriate date difference function, double-click, and compare the current date with the opportunities planned end date. I will click on the green OK button. And we only want to know about the opportunities due to close in a certain number of days. So we are going to say for this filter that this calculated filter is less than or equal to a certain value. We could just as easy hard code this value to 7 days or even 14 days. But if we leave it as a parameter-driven field, that will enable me to reuse this query in multiple events and have each event look for a different number of days as its triggering threshold. Next, I need to specify the optional prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and name this opportunity due to close in how many days. Now, let's test the query. We'll go ahead and click on the preview button, and our prompt window comes up. And let's say 30 days, and click on See Preview. If we scroll to the right to the end of our results, we can see that the days till close are indeed less than 30 days. At this point, we are now ready to save and update and close the query. But before we close, let's go back to the Calculation Wizard in the Columns tab and talk about some of the other calculations that are available to you. Up at the top of the wizard, there are a number of fields starting with the word convert. This is not used often, but there may be a need to change the format of a field in an application's database, whether it's changing a date-time field to show only the date or only the time, or some of these other operations that are here for you to choose from. The most commonly used operations to choose from are the date-related operations, whether it's adding or subtracting a certain number of days or hours to a value in a database, or the function that we just used, calculating the number of days between two dates. There are a number of these date-related operations to choose from. Towards the bottom of the list, there are some other functions that can be used. One other function to note is the substring function. Substring allows you to retrieve just part of a value from a database field. For example, if a database field stores Social Security numbers and you wish to retrieve the first 3 digits or the last 4 digits, you can do so using the substring function. Now we can close and update our query. This concludes our discussion on Part 2 of Calculations and Query Design for the Alerts and Automation solution. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training.